I want the title Fittest Woman on Earth. I won like $500 gift certificate. There was no money in CrossFit.
You have had an extraordinary career.
One of the biggest myths in the fitness industry is...
I mean, that is just insanity. Annie Thorisdottir is the first woman to win the CrossFit Games Fittest Woman on Earth twice. She breaks down how to push past your athletic limits, how becoming a mother changed her approach to competition, and how you can stay strong at every stage of life.
If you want to be the best, you need to continue to push. This is where people stop. Now the quitters are quitting. I will do one more.
How does that help you in life?
It helps you in knowing that you can be uncomfortable, but you're going to be okay. Gradually, my body just broke down. I was in physical and mental pain. It taught me I'm not unbreakable. I remember just starting to cry. In the deepest lows, I feel like you learn the most.
Becoming a mom.
Having a kid makes you strong.
So strong.
My doctor came in. She was like, your pelvic floor is never going to be the same. I know you're a professional athlete. You don't have to be doing CrossFit workout every single day. Getting back into shape has been about when I was lying on the floor thinking if I would ever walk again. I'm not willing to die for this sport. My coach just asked me, are you going to quit? And I have said that.
Wow. Before we get to our conversation with Annie, can you do one quick thing to help this channel grow? Just hit subscribe below. It's completely free and helps us bring more of these conversations to you. Now let's get into it. Annie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on your podcast.
Well, I'm really honored to have you here. You have just had an extraordinary career that keeps going, which is phenomenal.
Yes.
So we definitely want to talk about the longevity. But what first got you introduced to CrossFit back in Iceland?
I was competing in gymnastics from a very young age until I started, I guess, semi-high school. We have like a different school system. And then I was like, focus on school. I'm going to become a doctor. Just focus on school now. And going from training 24 hours a week into doing very little training was obviously not going to work for me. So I went into like ballet and dancing, and that just... It was great. It was a lot of time. It was very fun, but it wasn't enough. So I started boot camp, and that's like just high intensity for an hour. And I was like, that's my jam.
Nice.
And obviously it doesn't really fit with like being a ballerina and then like being in boot camp within. So my dance coaches didn't love that, but I couldn't stop. Then I moved over to pole vaulting and decided I was going to become go to the Olympics in pole vaulting, became Icelandic champion in pole vaulting. And I was only in it for a couple of years until because always all alongside it, I was like, there's something missing. It was fun to jump. It was fun to dance. But something was missing, which is why I was always doing boot camp and finding these like random fitness competitions to compete in. And then one of the competitions I signed up for was a CrossFit competition. I competed. I won it. I loved it. I got a wild card spot at the CrossFit Games. I'm like, all right, let's do this. I had like 2 months to prepare and get to know what CrossFit was. I went to California, Aromas, and competed. And I was like, told my parents, I'm like, I think I am going to just do chemistry in school or something to prep me for becoming a doctor. But I'm going to take 1 year before I go into medicine, before I go into med school. And they're like, okay, they know what kind of character I am. It's safe. I'll come back. And there was no money in CrossFit at this point. No money. So I don't understand how they were so chill. They were obviously with me and they saw how much I loved it and how the competition was. And it was like made for me. And then I competed 2010, got second place, and I was like, I can actually win this. I'm like, I want the title Fittest Woman on Earth. I won like $500 gift certificate from Under Armour or something that year.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It's like really no money.
And no money.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, 1 more year. And then I got my first sponsorship with Reebok, like after the 2010 games. And my parents saw like, okay, like things are happening. They never pushed me to go to med school. They just
let it play out.
knew like I was committed to something. They saw me. I went training twice a day. I got myself a coach. I went to the US to meet an Olympic weightlifting coach, gymnastics coach. I was like, I am going to become the fittest woman on earth because I want to be able to walk around and be like, I'm the fittest woman on earth. That was my reason.
Pretty cool title.
Yes.
I mean,
so 20-year-old Annie had a dream. And I won the games 2011. And
You're 20 at the
then
time.
I'm 21 when I win it, and I get a check for $250,000. So then all of a sudden, that was the first year with prize person in, opportunities to travel the world and introduce CrossFit and open my eyes to like a different life. I still was always going to go to med school, but that was my start. And here I am, I don't know how many years later, and been competing. I don't know how many times 11, 12 times competed at the CrossFit Games. And just, it's been, yeah, I found myself in this sport.
Yeah. Say more about that.
It was just, I was able to, I like challenging myself. Ever since I was a kid, my dad would give me these random challenges, like lie down and let a wave go over you. And I'll give you like $1. I'm like, yes, I will do it. I was like, I'm going to be the most bad. I'm going to try everything. And we had a pull-up competition in my household. Like you got money for each pull-up that you did. And I was like, I'm going to beat my brothers and my cousins and everyone. Like,
Wow.
I just love challenges. And CrossFit gave that to me.
Yeah.
I got my very first muscle up at the CrossFit Games 2009. And I had never attempted a muscle up before that. That's like on the rings, getting yourself up. And it's a very high skill movement. And you can't just like muscle your way through it.
Right.
But
So
I
that's
got
essentially, can you describe a muscle? Because I think a lot of folks aren't going to know exactly what that is.
Yeah.
Because it's got to be one of the hardest.
one of the harder CrossFit moves, I would say. Yeah. But now it's like you do so many in a row and all of that. But at this point, girls had never done it at the games. I just like familiarize myself to those movements. But yeah, you're literally just hanging from rings and you just need to get yourself from hanging up to support on top. So it's like, it doesn't even count for anything in male gymnastics. That's just a way to get on the rings.
Yep.
But it is a hard movement to do.
Yeah.
And I've done gymnastics, but female gymnasts don't do it. So I got my very first one. And a lot of people see it as like, remember this moment. It's like she got her first one on the floor. What I remember, obviously high of getting the first one, but I remember the first time I failed and I got a DNF. I did not finish the workout. I could not get myself through the rest of those muscle ups to, if I would have just finished the workout, been in last place, I would have kept second place that year at the games. But because I got a DNF, I dropped down to like 11th or 12th place. And I remember
DNF did not finish. As people know, yep.
Yeah. So I remember it as like, it gave me this feeling of, I need to practice. I need to get better. I can get better at gymnastics. I can get better at skills. I can get better at strength. I can get better at endurance. And it gave me so many challenges that I didn't get tired. There was always
bored.
Yes.
It sounds like you have this range of, like, you wanted to be able to self-actualize like across this range of skills.
Exactly.
You know, and it's CrossFit's so unique in that regard. You know, you're
exactly.
not just focused on one area.
It's a balance.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to find that balance.
Yeah.
Like, how can you get stronger and run faster at the same time? That's really difficult. But I think it's that challenge that kept me in it and makes it still be so that I still get butterflies in my stomach and excited. And I still feel like I can improve and get better at so many things. So that was my love for it and the community. That doesn't ruin it. Like, that helps. It's
a huge piece of it, right?
Huge piece of it.
Yeah.
I've grown up in this community.
Has the community been good to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say majority of the community is good to me. There's always going to be assholes.
Of course.
If you're, let's say that.
Yeah. For sure.
You're always going to have haters out there. And it was hard, young, getting someone that wrote you a message and then maybe like, oh, it's so disappointing that you're not paleo. I can't believe you're not stricter with your diet. And I remember that so well because it sat with me and I was like, oh my God, I'm not a good role model. I'm not doing things right. And then I tried paleo and I was like, I was affected obviously as like, that was when I was 19.
Wow.
And that obviously like has some impact, but I tried it and I'm like, that doesn't work for me. So I figured out as well, like, you need to listen to yourself and push aside the rest. And then thankfully, like, social media became bigger and bigger a little bit later on in my career. So I didn't grow up with other than Facebook, where you kind of pick and choose
Yeah.
who gets to see one.
What else did you discover about yourself kind of through CrossFit? I mean, I'm sure it's just a massive laundry list, but kind of the pressure from external people who really don't mean anything to you, but have an influence, right? Like how do you balance that? And, what are some of the other things that you learned about yourself along the way?
So many things.
Yeah.
I feel like every single year I've learned something about myself, and some years bigger than others. In the deepest lows, I feel like you learn the most. And after winning the games 2011, I had a lot of people go like, "You're not going back again, right? Because you already won. Like anything other than winning is going to be a failure." And that started to go like,
Wow.
so because I won, I shouldn't compete again. And it's like, no, I'm going to be the first woman in the world to win twice. So that became like a motivator and driver. But that year was really difficult mentally for me
Yeah.
because I had sponsors. I
Yeah.
felt like
Some
I
new
had
pressure.
to win. Yes. I felt like I had to win. I was an underdog the year before, and now everyone else are chasing you. And I felt like I wasn't living under, like, for those expectations, I wasn't living up to them. And my family was there, and like so many of my friends, I'm like, they're coming such a far way. I need to perform. And I'm still so young. And I remember just breaking down and starting to cry when we were not even half of 1/3 through, because I was like, I'm way too far down the leaderboard. I can't win. So I don't know what to do. And then I was like, are you going to quit? Like my coach just asked me, are you going to quit? I'm like, no, I would never quit. I would never quit anything. So I'm like, no, like that's not an option. So I was like, all right, so you're not going to win. Just do one event at a time. Just try to go out there and be yourself and have fun. And that was a breakthrough for me. And remembering who I am and what I was doing it for. I was never doing it for the money. I was never doing it for others, for my sponsors.
Yeah.
And it made me realize I was like, the people that are behind me will be behind me and the others don't matter. And the next event, I won. And I just tractored up and managed to win the games, even though I believed there was no chance. But I think it was that managing to push the pressure away that got me there. Gosh. So I feel like I've had a lot of, after that, I didn't know what to do. I had a back injury, and that made me realize, like, I was thinking maybe I should quit now because it was a tough year.
Yeah.
But then having a back injury made me realize how much I loved this. And I think that year gave me the feeling that it doesn't matter what others think. I will continue to compete even if I'm not going to win, because I love training too much. Yeah. It might seem crazy to some, but when I was lying on the floor thinking if I would ever like walk again, if I would ever compete again, it was like tearing something out of my soul, not being able to train. And I was like, it's not just the games, it's the journey, it's what I'm doing.
Such a powerful realization,
Crazy. Which is why I'm saying, like, some of them, I've had some big setbacks, but some of those setbacks have given me the greatest gifts.
Yeah.
Because that's when you also, the people that stepped away from me when I was injured, it made me realize what my inner circle was. It made me realize who the important people are in my life. And it made me realize that why would I listen to then the voices outside of that group when I'm doing good or when I'm doing bad? Those voices don't matter. Yeah. What matters is what I think about myself, and then what my loved ones, how they feel around me, and am I being true to myself, who I used to be and who I am. So that was I would have wanted it to be a less severe injury, but it was a great gift.
Yeah. And you hurt your back.
Yeah, so I got a bulged disc, but mostly it was like I bruised nerves and I had nerve pain for like half a year. I had was numb in my leg and severe nerve pain. So those it was a long way back, and it was a different battle than I had
before. Did you
before.
have to take the year off from the games?
Yes.
That year? Okay, the year that you had your back injury. So there was it was a significant road to recovery.
Yes, it was. I got a little greedy and tried and
Yeah.
got an invite, but I never got close to like competing.
Yeah.
It was too bad for them. And it taught me I'm not unbreakable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like when you're young, you feel like nothing will break you and you can do everything.
Yeah.
And I trained like an idiot sometimes.
Yeah.
But I could get away with it.
Until you don't.
Until you don't.
And how did that change your mindset around, training and recovery? Was that kind of the moment that created a shift in kind of how you think about your training?
It did.
Yeah.
It did. It helped me realize that I didn't have to. So when I came back 2014, after a year off from competing, I was like, I'm going to be way too far behind these girls that I don't stand a chance against them anymore. But with the training I did, I got second place that year at the games.
Wow.
And it made me realize that you don't have to be doing CrossFit workout every single day and destroy yourself, because that's a big toll on your body. Like,
yeah.
Functional fitness,
volume.
yes.
Yeah.
Functional fitness is great for longevity. It's great for strength building, stronger bones, cardiovascular health, and endurance, like so many big benefits. But I think any sport, being a professional athlete, is not going to be good for you.
Yeah.
You are pushing yourself to the limit. You're trying to like break down as much as you can so you can build up stronger, right?
Yeah.
So figuring out, it made me realize that I can train differently and get the same benefit. And thankfully, I've had a coach by my side since 2010. I've had the same coach, and we've kind of like evolved together. So we started doing more heart rate zone work with a heart rate monitor, and that was my conditioning. Then gymnastics conditioning, and like not just hitting metcons where you have you can train very differently and then have strength cycles and so on. So it was, I built my season up differently from there on.
So you're doing kind of metabolic conditioning or metcons like 3 times a week maybe? So you're dialing it back from like, you were probably 5 days a week, right? With metcons.
6 days a week.
And now you're
twice
doing
a
more.
day.
I mean, that's just wild. So now you're doing like a metcon and then maybe like some zone 2 work or mobility, like kind of.
So it would be like one of those days would be zone 2, active recovery, some movements that I would have to work on. The other days would be 2 sessions. One session where it would be strength and maybe a gymnastic skill. And then the second session would be some sort of a conditioning, but it would maybe be threshold or intervals just on machine. So just doing bike intervals, I'll feel I can destroy myself.
Yeah.
But I'm fine the day after.
Right.
Like my joints aren't going to hurt.
Of course, yeah.
So I would maybe just do CrossFit metcon so barbell movement on top of running and pounding and jumping and whatever. I would do it as EMOMs, so working on the minute every minute, so it's more controlled. But otherwise, just when we get closer to season, when I need to start getting ready, that's where we would ramp up the volume with those. So honestly, I might do it once a week, like a workout like that.
How much do you use data to help you understand how to modulate volume and intensity? Yeah.
We do use that a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like we were one of the first ones. Like I was the first one to show up with a coach at the CrossFit Games.
Wow.
And with a full team. Like I had 2 coaches and my partner, 2011 when I won. And I feel like then more people started saying, okay, some of this stuff is working. Fueling, like they always waited with me with a protein and carb drink. Like as soon as I came out, like we're thinking about not recovery here, but for the rest of the weekend. And just like, then for training, we found endurance coaches that we work with. And my coach is also like loves data, loves numbers. I'm a data and numbers person. So it's like, okay, if we do this here kind of heart rate training thing, we're working on this here system and then this here system. And then we want to do the fast fit twitch fibers. And then we want to do the ATP and recover and lactates. So it was a lot of, and it also makes that training fun, right?
Yeah, because you're mixing it up and you feel intentional about what you're doing.
Exactly. I feel so proud of the work that I do. I hit the numbers I'm supposed to hit, and then I'm done. When my heart rate doesn't drop below a certain point within X long time, that means I'm not doing another. Then I'm not doing another
beats per minute, and if it doesn't, then
I'm done for today.
Yeah,
because otherwise, I might push it more when I'm closer to competing, but otherwise I am not going to get any benefit out of it, and I'm just going to be more tired the day after.
Yeah.
So
There's science to it. That's what's so exciting.
that's what makes
you know?
it fun.
It's so fun. And I
Yeah.
think what's cool about your journey, and I need to find the exact quote, but at a certain point, you can't put in more work or more hours at the gym, so recovery becomes the game. What a great quote. It's recovery is the game,
Yes, absolutely.
And you figured out how to leverage that to the fullest, and would you say that, because you've had, I mean, the level of success that you've had, and just to be able to sustain that excellence for so long, over so many years, right? Like, what do you, if you were to kind of say, it's these three things, that really enabled me to have like the career that I've had, what would you attribute it to?
Ooh, I would say the team around me
Yeah.
is like
Your
a
team is
key.
insane.
I have an incredible team. I have the right chiropractor that like knows my body, fixes injuries. Like he's incredible. I've had the same coach, and I have my partner and my parents that have like been with me on the whole journey. And like that group, like having a core support group that's always with you. That's
consistent.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
On the ups and downs. Then I would say having the capability of listening to your body and evolving as you get older, like learning how you need to change your training, and figuring out how to get the most bang from your buck. Like, especially after having a kid, I had to change. I didn't have as much time training.
Yeah.
But
to be more efficient.
Yeah. But it made me realize how much I could do
Yeah.
in a short time. So it's not just like what you do, it's how you do it. It's not just like, I feel like a lot of people like did that, did a 5K run, I did my 3 sets of 5. But it's like, what intention did you put into it? How did you feel when you were doing it? Could you have gone heavier? Could you have gone faster? Maybe you weren't supposed to, but like doing it with understanding the intent behind the training and doing it with the right intent, I feel like is key.
Yeah.
And then listening to your body when you need to recover, knowing when it's just hurting and when it's an injury. Yeah. Yes. Like finding that limit.
And I think that like wisdom takes just time and repetition.
That takes years. Yeah.
Like feeling.
And that's something. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've come to actually rely on when I am nervous and I feel like I haven't maybe done the same as I used to do before. I'm like, well, experience can't be bought. Like my body has done this so many times.
Exactly. You have a muscle memory.
It knows, it knows what's supposed to do.
Is an advantage in itself.
Absolutely.
Best CrossFit Games was 3rd place after the birth of your daughter. What was the worst?
Ooh. Heat stroke, 2015.
Yeah.
The worst one. It was the first time I quit. Even though I didn't quit, I had to.
Your body
pull out.
Literally shut down.
I've always been under the belief that your mind gives up before your body does, right? That's kind of how you go. If you want to toughen up, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, it's just your mind saying that you can't do it. You can continue for a few more minutes. It's just your mind. And there, it wasn't my mind. I wanted to continue. So I got a heat stroke during one of the first events at the games. It was very warm conditions. It's a 1 mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, and 300 air squats into 1 mile run wearing a weight vest. And it was like a metal weight vest.
How many pounds is the weight vest?
14 pounds. And it was out of soccer.
I mean, that is just insanity. Sorry.
Honestly, I was very excited about this workout, especially that it wasn't partition. I'm like, I'm pretty good at that. Like, I'm very good at the pull-ups. I'm very good at the push-ups. So I was like, oh, that's where I make up my time, and I'm going to do good in that event. And then I remember the first run, we would come in and it's at a soccer stadium and it's in the grass and it's like a pit.
Just heat.
It is so warm. And I remember finishing the pull-ups and then I get to the push-ups and I'm like, oh my God, it's like so warm down here. I can't wait to get to the squats. And I get through the push-ups. And then when I get to the squats, it's just the endless squats. You just continue and you do one more and one more. And I have no idea where I am. I have no idea how many I've done. And then I remember my judge finally goes like, you go. And then I go out and my legs are just not working. I'm like trying to run. I'm trying to navigate. I'm stumbling. I'm falling. And I'm like, what is happening? And then like they get my body temperature. Like no one is allowed to give me water, by the way, which I think is absolutely
what?
insane. Yeah.
Like,
So
you can't have water during that entire time?
apparently there were coolers there that had water in it. Not know that. That you were allowed to just go and get water from there. Frederick tried to give me water. Some in the audience try to give me water. Like when I'm running and I'm stumbling, they're trying to give me water. And it's like, no, not allowed to get anything. So it's just like, I just wanted something to pour over me, you know? So there's like, I don't remember this part, but there's footage of me like just like shivering around.
Yeah.
And then it's time cap before I even finish the workout. And I remember them just like carrying me off, trying to cool me down. I think my like outside body temperature was like just under 39 degrees Celsius. And then I got some IV and I'm like, no, I don't want any IV. Don't want IV. I feel like that's cheating. It's like, didn't want any of it, but they like forced in. As for my mom's phone number, I couldn't remember it. Like my brain just wasn't working.
Wow.
And then I just remember like gradually my body just broke down more and more. Like I tried to continue. I tore some muscles in my biceps, my triceps. I couldn't strengthen my arm. I couldn't hang from a pull-up bar. And then I was doing bar muscle ups. And it was just like I was in physical and mental pain for such a long time because I don't quit. And every time it's like my body knows what to do. Like my mind was like, my body knows what to do. I'm like, I'm ready for this. And then it just couldn't do. It didn't function. And it took me, I withdrew from the games and it took me 3 months from the games to be able to do a push-up on my toes. Like like nothing was hurting anymore. It just wasn't working.
Yeah.
Like my muscles just weren't working.
Yeah. It's the connection between the nerve endings in your brain and like, it just like stops. Yeah. Heat stroke is devastating.
Apparently.
Yeah.
And I did not want to deal with that shit. So I was like, just push it away. And then we came to the games 2016. They announced Murph was at the games. Same workout was going to be at the games. And I just broke down crying. And that's when my coach and my partner, Frederick, they knew we made a mistake.
Wow.
By not talking about it, by not looking at the footage, by not doing anything. So that was my second most miserable year at the games because I just wanted it to be done. I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
I was so scared.
CrossFit this year. Are you doing it?
So heavy topic.
I know.
I am not doing the CrossFit Games this year. Obviously, I can't. I didn't do the Open. But it is the first time since the Open started that I am not doing the Open. And there's a lot of things that led to it, but there was Lazar Dukic, he passed away at the games last year. And it was during a run swim event and he drowned. And obviously it's just like a very heavy hit for CrossFit community and for his family, obviously. And you feel like I've been there. Like I'm very grateful I wasn't at the games that year. But yeah, so he passed away. And there were a lot of things surrounding it that I feel like were just not done the proper way. Safety protocols 100% did not seem to be in place. There were even people in the audience that saw that something was happening. Someone jumped in to try to save him and got pulled out of the water. There were lifeguards that apparently no one saw it. And everything that I have read and seen, it seems like there were just nothing in place for if in case something like this would happen. So obviously something that comes into me is just, what if that would have been me? How were his last minutes? He's calling for help and is not getting it. This is a very experienced athlete. He is a former water polo player, so he's a very good swimmer. He knows how to push to the limit. And a very tragic accident that happens the games continue, and that's not necessarily the wrong thing, but I felt like there were some things that could have been so much better that were around all of that happening.
Do you think they were aggressive enough in how they, like, in the aftermath of that event?
No. I feel like they had never dealt with this. I'm going to say that they haven't dealt with that before.
This is the first death at
This is the first death at the CrossFit Games. But I did not feel like they took the right steps. I did not feel like they handled it the best way possible. Athletes that are there are obviously vulnerable as well.
Have you ever felt unsafe competing?
I have felt unsafe competing, yes. But I have always had the full belief that I will be okay. But I admit, like, you get really scared when you compete, and you're pushing yourself, like I was saying, like, you're pushing yourself to the physical and mental limit. And when I've been scared, which I have been, and I am scared of swimming. Like, I'm an okay swimmer, but I wasn't used to ocean. So when I was in the ocean, I was more scared. But I've always told myself, and I've even said it out loud, I'm not willing to die for this sport. And I've also said, I'm not going to die. I'm going to be saved. I'm not going to die. And just the fact that I have said that to myself so many times and then this happened feels like just such a heavy trust that has been broken. After the games, the aftermath, we, like the athlete committee, kind of ask for certain things. We have like a union that tries to represent us and ask for certain things, and I was one of the. So Lazar was actually on there, and I took his spot on the committee for a short time, and I put my name down on like certain changes that we wanted to see. And the fact that none of those changes were met just made me, I don't know, like everything I've said here, you know how much I love this sport. You know how much it's changed my life and how passionate I am about it. I have CrossFit Reykjavik in Iceland and beautiful gym. We have over 1,000 members and so many lives that we're changing and affecting, and this fitness mythology and community. I've grown up in this community and I appreciate this community so much. It's helped me through a lot of lows as well. But that doesn't mean that I need to be okay with everything that the people that are running CrossFit commit to. We've asked for changes. We've asked for changes in the past. We've gotten promises. We've gotten an athlete committee and that just got dissolved a year or two later. It's like it's patches that we get to try to make us feel better. And then you have the people that are like, okay, then just don't compete. That come out there. It's like, you realize how hard it is to not compete when it's a sport that you love. But it was a decision I made because of the way they were handling things. But it doesn't mean that I am leaving the CrossFit community. It just meant that was the only thing I can do. I don't have a lot of power other than me participating. And me participating just felt wrong to me. I'm not judging anyone that makes other decisions. It's a livelihood for a lot of us. But I am in a position where I can make that call, and I need to make the right call for myself. And it was so difficult, but it was the right thing for me to do. And I am really hoping that it will change, but I need to think about, what do I want this sport to be in the future? What do I want for the teens that are coming up? Do I want it to be, I know accidents happen, but how do they happen? What changes are we trying to make to prevent it from happening again? I am not competing in a sport. I can drop a barbell on my head. But I want to be, if I have a cardiac arrest on the floor, the medical team will come on the floor and save me. And I believe that. But I feel like it's almost something happened and you decide to continue and let the cardiac arrest happen. And then it's just too late because the event has to continue. It has to finish. I wasn't there. but that's how I feel. And also the fact that we don't get the report, they're not making anything public.
Yeah.
I know legal system in the US and
Mm.
it's different, but therefore I took the stance that I took, and I'm never leaving CrossFit community. I did the open. I was with my people.
Yeah.
I support BK, and he's a friend of mine that's competing on the male side.
Yeah.
But I want change. I want not just change. I don't like it when people just say change. I want change for change.
Yeah.
I want accountability, and I want I want to see that we're going to make the sport better. My daughter is not going to compete in CrossFit unless I believe that they're thinking about our safety too, that it matters. And that trust was broken, and it needs to be regained.
Sounds like they've got work to do.
They do.
They've got competition too. Hyrox.
Yeah.
Just looking at the data, it's unbelievable when you look at the growth. I mean, CrossFit has a decline of 11% growth just this past year.
Yes.
And Hyrox has participation's increased by 278%.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, Hyrox is blowing up. It's fun. It's fun. I've done one like a partner. Hyrox is really fun.
Yeah. It's, I guess, a bit more accessible.
Exactly.
It's not quite as
lower
gymnastic-y.
entry.
Yeah, lower barrier to entry. CrossFit is some really complex movements.
It does. It does.
Which makes it amazing and exciting and just super challenging, But it seems like Hyrox is definitely speaking to folks in a profound way. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
I think it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. I do think Hyrox is there to be there. It's there to stay. It's something I'm going to partake in because I do think it's fun. I do think that it's a different sport, though. And I would say Hyrox is awesome. Like, you just love sweating. You love the feeling when you finish something like that.
Yeah.
But you're going to lose muscle if you just do Hyrox, if you had muscle before, because you're not lifting heavy weights. So I would say you need strength training alongside Hyrox. That would be, for people that want to do Hyrox, I would recommend doing strength training as well, because you don't have that in there.
If there's one thing I've just been reminded of when launching Science and Soul, it's that whenever you're starting something new, you've got to be prepared to wear a few different hats. Whether you're building a brand, launching a podcast, or bringing your side hustle to life, unless you've got a team behind the scenes, you're it. You're the engine, the creative, the strategy, the execution, which leads me to today's sponsor, Shopify. Shopify is a tool that not only helps you get started, but wears a lot of those hats for you. It's your design studio where you can browse templates and customize them to your brand's aesthetic. Your content creator, writing product descriptions, page headlines, and thanks to AI, can actually enhance your product photos. And of course, it's your commerce expert, managing things like inventory, international shipping, returns, and so much more. If you're ready to sell, head to shopify.co.uk/Kristen to start your $1 per month trial. That's shopify.co.uk/Kristen. I want to talk to you about our sponsor, Whoop, because we've just launched something that is going to shift how we all understand aging. It's part of the new 5.0 and MG, and it's called HealthSpan. It gives you a real, measurable view of how quickly or slowly your body is aging. Not in theory, but through data that connects directly to your daily behaviors. What's been the most compelling for me is how responsive the metric is. My biological age is currently tracking more than a decade below my chronological age. I can see almost in real time what is contributing to that. Things like sleep consistency, my VO2 max, time in various zones, strength training minutes. When those are dialed in, my number slows. And when they're off, it accelerates. It's that sensitive. We built HealthSpan into the 5.0 to give people a clear view of what's really impacting their long-term health. Because once you can see it, you can change it. If you want to try HealthSpan, visit join.whoop.com/science where you can get 1 month for free. Talk about becoming a mom.
Ever since 2017, I was like, I want to start a family. I want to start a family. I'm not ready yet. I'm a professional athlete. I need one more year. I need one more year. And then 2019, I almost had like a panic attack trying to make a decision if I was going to compete or not. I decided to compete and I was like, gonna win it. And that was a shit year at the games with the cuts and the programming. I don't need to go through that.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just got cut after like 6 events. And I was like, all right, sucks. That's going to be the last year I ever compete at the CrossFit Games. And this is how I finished my career, but we're making a baby.
Wow.
And then we got a baby girl.
Oh.
I had a beautiful pregnancy. I felt so good. Then I had a horrible birth.
Really tough. Yeah. Do you mind talking through that a little bit? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to cry.
I know. I mean, I just reading it, I cried. I was like, I mean, I don't know.
It was just really, really long. It was COVID, so I started a little bit by myself at the hospital. My water broke early. I tried to stay at home as long as I could. In the evening, I got admitted just in case of like fever and infections or something. Frederick wasn't allowed to come, so my partner wasn't allowed to come until like I was supposed to go into active labor.
Wow.
But thankfully, it got to come like in the evening the day after. And then the process just took like 2 days until I was properly dilated.
Wow.
And she wasn't popping down. She was like stargaze and like tilted, like just like stuck. I think my pelvic floor is just very, very tight. Wow. So they went in multiple times trying to turn her, trying to get her to drop. I've never felt this much like an animal. To be honest. Just like, just go in there and try to do your thing.
I know.
So yeah, after like 3 hours, 2.5 hours in active labor, she wasn't coming. We went into the surgical suite. I had an epidural at that point. We were in the surgical suite and they had to do like full numbing, just ready for emergency C-section. She ended up getting out on like, did more attempts than they were maybe supposed to, but they had like, they were measuring her heart rate.
Yeah.
And she was recovering so well between. So I'm like, my training maybe paid off.
Yeah, it was like mama's fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, translates to the fetus.
But yeah, so got her out, tore a line, lost 2 liters of blood.
Oh God.
The scariest thing was that you heard nothing and she was so blue. And it felt like the longest like 1.5 minutes of my life. And
so she didn't cry immediately.
No. And they like rush with her to the table and are like trying to fix her up. And she's like very lactic. And then I immediately start going, my God, it's my fault. Like, I'm so stubborn. I'm so stubborn that I wanted to have this child this way. I wanted to push. I don't know anything. I'm having a child for the first time. Yeah. And the process had taken, obviously, I've been awake for like 3 days. And I was just like, I did this. Like, it's my stubbornness that caused something to be wrong for her. Then finally she started crying and I got her on my chest and it was like,
relief.
You cannot explain the emotions if you haven't gotten a child on you after like, it is the best in the world. And immediately I was just like, I would die for you. Like, I would do anything for this kid. And they had to take her away to make sure that she was fine. And I'm like, Frederick, go. Yeah. And then I was 2 hours getting stitched together until I finally got to see her. But she like graduated a day later and like everything looked so good. She was like 4.5 kilos and just like a big, strong girl.
Nice.
And her mama took a lot longer to recover.
Yeah.
I was stubborn, didn't want to get blood. I don't know. I feel like other people need it more. I can recover. Yeah. That was another mistake.
Yeah.
My doctor came in and she was like, well, your pelvic floor is never going to be the same. I know you're a professional athlete, but you will most likely not be lifting heavy weights with this pelvic floor. And I was just like, do you think I care right now? Like, do you think I care? So right now hearing this? No.
Yeah, you didn't.
Like, I just had a magical baby that I was terrified of messing up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a stressed person, just in general. Default. I also have hormones that like work really well with stress.
Yeah.
I've gotten that tested many times.
Yes.
But like I had an alarm like going off regularly to check if she was breathing and to breastfeed her and like make sure that she was okay. So this girl did not sleep for quite a while. And then we finally got to go home, and that's when I think the blood loss and just seeing myself the way I was. I couldn't take a shower myself. I couldn't be at home alone with her because I was terrified that I would like faint because of how little energy I had. So I just felt so incompetent. And I didn't feel happy unless she was in my arms or I was watching her. So I like didn't want to eat food, couldn't sleep, and I just became like obsessed. I just had to have my baby in my arms or I felt horrible. So then Frederick was like trying to make me, usually you can make me feel good by giving me chocolate, ice cream. Like I'm a sweet girl. Like I like the sweets and that makes me laugh and be happy. I hadn't, like I'm also obviously used to the endorphins from training.
Of course.
And just being so broken. I was like watching, I remember Big Bang was on the TV and I was just like, Frederick, why are we doing this? We're all going to die anyways.
Wow.
And then he's like, okay, I think we need to have a talk. And thankfully I'm good at expressing my emotions, my feelings. And when the midwife came and asked me if I'd slept, I'm like, I haven't slept for 5 days. And she was like, we need to do something. And obviously Frederick was like, we need to do something. You need to get help. And I pumped and made him promise me that he wouldn't fall asleep and he would watch her for 3 hours. I fell asleep and I saw colors. Like it was so strange. Like obviously it took like a little longer. We had to get out of the apartment like 10 days later. We tried to go for a walk. I couldn't really walk that much. It took so long for me to recover.
You hadn't been outside.
Hadn't been outside.
Wow.
So by us, kind of like it was really hard for me to step out of the apartment for some reason. But by us going out then for a drive because I couldn't walk a lot, and I saw people outside walking, laughing, talking, working.
Yeah, just
and
life was happening.
Continues. Like it was so weird. So it's really odd to think back to this as like it is the happiest I have ever been in my life. And also the hardest, most difficult period.
Yeah.
Because I've never believed, like, this sounds so wrong, but like when people talk about depression, I'm like, just go train. Yeah. Just go out, see people. Like I've never understood depression. Yeah. And then being in it, it terrified me. Yeah. I was like, will I be like this for the rest of my life? And it's so far from what I am usually. I'm so social and I'm used to being around people all the time. And I'm very giggly and happy and have always been. So it's like it was weird. Yeah.
You didn't recognize yourself.
I did not recognize myself. Yeah. And my goal was never to come back and compete at the CrossFit Games. Like maybe it was going to happen, but it was never like a goal of mine. But like 4 or 5 weeks later, when I was able to just sit on a bike and move, it just brought back like good feelings in me. Yeah. And that was a way for me to kind of find myself again. Yeah. It didn't matter. Like I've never cared what I look like. I've had a 6-pack where people will say that I have like an HGH gut. I've just looked like that since I was a kid. Yeah. It's just my abdominal wall is like that. Yeah. And now after having a kid, I have very severe abdominal separation, coning. So I got asked multiple times if I was pregnant when I was walking around with my newborn. Like, no, I did not get pregnant that quickly. But it's never gotten to me. But it's me getting back into shape or back into training has been about finding my strength. I've always been strong. I've always been independent. I've always been so capable. So going through the open, quarterfinals, semis. I never thought I would compete at the games. Like I was so broken. I couldn't run until eight months after having my kid. I started being able to run again.
Wow.
I had to see a pelvic floor specialist. I had a lot of training that I had to do to make my way back up.
You have your daughter in August. And when is the next CrossFit Games?
That is early August. So I had
so a full year.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you compete in the next games?
So I competed in the next games. I qualified, and I even remember being on the airplane with Frederick. I'm like, you realize even though we're going here, I might not compete.
Yeah.
And he was like, that's okay. That's okay. But then everything like clicked together last minute. I wasn't as strong as I had been before, but having a kid makes you strong.
So strong.
Mentally,
Yeah.
like I was in the best cardiovascular shape of my life.
Wow.
Like what I could do was go hard on a bike, like on an air bike. And I did the most miserable interval training and it made me feel so good. So I just did a lot. I went to the dark place so many times that season that like getting ready for the games was.
You have unusual mental strength. Clearly, right? Like you're genetically, you're just wired.
It's something
different.
you built. It's something you built.
Talk about the dark place, because a lot of folks have never probably gone there, but there's some value in taking yourself there.
There is value in taking yourself
I think
there.
so, right?
I'm not saying you need to be doing it all the time, but it's nice to touch it.
How do you get there?
When you're competing, you obviously want to be the best. If you want to be the best, you need to continue to push your boundaries. And I've been under the belief when it hurts the most, when you've pushed so hard that it's hurting a lot, and then you make a decision like, is this where you stop? And that's where I think this is where people stop. Everything I do that is past this point is me getting better than everyone else. So that's where I get fired up.
Yeah.
So I'm like, now the quitters are quitting and I will do one more. Then I'm like, now I'm going to do one more. Now I'm going to do one more until I'm lying on the floor crying. Yes, I do sometimes cry.
Yeah.
But it's always afterwards. It's like, I don't know. And then I'm so proud of myself because I know I put in the work I had to put in. Like when you're doing, you need to be smart. That's not something you do every time.
Of course.
But when you're let's say you're finishing a workout or something and it finishes with, let's just say 50 calories on the rower. Like that's something most people have done. You can do 50 calories on the rower at a pace where you can breathe. You can do 50 calories on the rower where you feel like you're going so hard and you're so uncomfortable that you don't know if you're going to be able to finish, but then you finish. And that's maybe your 95%. Then you can go and you can hit the 100%. And I feel like that's where the boundary is. Like, are you willing to hit that 100%? Or are you going to think, it doesn't matter how hard I push right now, I'm getting better? Or are you going to think, I need to be able to push to this point, and maybe someone is right next to me that is 5 calories ahead. If I want to catch them, I need to push to it. And if you never do that in training, you're not going to know yourself in competition. So you need to find that boundary. You even need to sometimes go that hard that you actually can almost not finish and you drop off, because otherwise you're not going to know where that limit is. So I feel like that's where I have that negotiation with myself in my head, and I will never quit. I will never quit.
How does that translate? So for someone listening who's not going to ever be competing in the CrossFit Games, pushing oneself to that level of discomfort, how does that help you in life?
It helps you in knowing that you can be uncomfortable, but you're going to be okay. And you're probably going to be feeling stronger at the other side of it. It teaches you to go outside of that comfort zone. So that's how I've kind of looked at it in training, where it transfers into my life. When I get asked to be on a podcast or I get asked to hold a lecture, the first time I do it, I'm terrified because like, what? It's outside of my comfort zone. But then you prep for it, you're nervous, you do it, it's hard, you're proud, you get better. So I feel like it's a way of building trust in yourself that you are capable. I feel very capable in the gym. And I know that it transfers into my life.
Yeah.
It makes me be less afraid of failing in other places because I have failed so many times. And I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like, you just pick yourself up and you go again.
It sounds like those are the moments where you've actually grown the most. And
Yes, exactly.
Nice. Yeah.
Which is why that year, like after having my daughter and then going to the games, even though I didn't know if I was going to compete or not, I felt like I owed it to myself to compete. My goal wasn't to podium. My goal was to try to not get caught at the games and be proud of the hard work that I put in and see that I had found myself and wanted to be a great role model for my daughter. And I ended up getting third place that year at the games, which is it's still mind-blowing to me. Like, that should not have happened.
I mean, I think about your postpartum depression.
Yeah.
And what would you say for women who might find themselves there? Or, do you have any advice, like,
talk
to someone who lived
Don't
through
be
it?
embarrassed and talk about it. Don't be
there's so much
afraid of
shame.
the feelings that you have.
Yeah.
I think I'm very fortunate of the safety I've had growing up, because I feel safe saying how I feel. And it takes a lot for me to be embarrassed. I just laugh at it and then it's like, all right, that was a silly thing to say or whatever. But first I opened up about how my birth was, and that was so difficult for me because I felt like I was weak because of what happened. And then I felt better after sharing it. Like, obviously, you're putting yourself out there. But then getting stories from other moms that had had similar thing and told me how they recovered from it. Yeah. I was like, wow, this is the good thing about social media.
Yeah.
This is where social media wins. Then I shared about my postpartum depression, and that was a hard one to press enter on because I never planned on sharing that. That's a very personal thing, but I never felt embarrassed about it. But then I started thinking, when I told my friends about it, when I told them about it, one of them told me, and she had had a postpartum depression for a year and hadn't talked to anyone about it. And I was like, that's crazy. But it took me opening up for her to dare to open up, which made me think, all right, I'll put myself out there. I'll open up about it because I'm not embarrassed and it might help others. And I was never going to be a spokesperson about it because there's probably others that have significantly worse postpartum depression. But it's nothing to be ashamed of. We're human beings. We have feelings. And the only way for us to work through these things is being able to talk about it and not get judged about it. It doesn't mean that you don't love your kid. It doesn't mean that you don't love your life. It doesn't mean you're not going to be a fantastic parent. We have feelings.
Yeah.
And we can fix it. We can make it better. I made it better. I got better. So that's why I decided I'm just going to open about every challenge I go through. It will be out there.
Well, I think people have learned from you and are inspired by you. And, and I think it takes a lot of courage probably to hit that send button, or whatever it is.
You also got judged.
Of course. Yeah.
Those are the ones you should just not care about.
No, you do not care about those. But I think for all the women who, I think they see someone like you, like you'd be completely bulletproof to something like that. I mean, even, you said that depression, that's not me. Like, you can't even identify with it, and I think that's where we're all susceptible at different times in our life. And there are going to be conditions potentially that make us more vulnerable. And I think, like, backing up, you have an infrastructure that you have created. You have attracted into your life that supports you and created conditions that allowed you to speak up.
Yes.
And I think that is beautiful as well.
I realize how fortunate I am. I do.
Yeah.
But everyone should have that around themselves.
I know. And I think that's like part of the evaluation. Yeah.
Yes.
Are the people in my life in scenarios like that, who's going to be supporting me
and not judge you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you advocate for training at any stage of life. You've launched this wonderful program with Stacey Sims called Empower.
Yeah, Empower my daughter.
Yeah, which is so cool. Talk a little bit about just the 3 main pillars? Because I feel like would be great for just listeners to ground themselves in, all right, what are the 3 things that I should be doing if I want to, improve my fitness and my longevity and
Strength training.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm all for strength training. I understand wanting to sweat, and that's why I do it. I love it. It feels good. The endorphin rush from that. But strength training is going to make you strong, and you need to be strong. If you could choose like one thing when you're old to have, I would say you want to choose to be strong.
Yeah.
You need to be able to carry yourself and carry the things around you.
Yeah.
Get up and have strong bones and muscles. So strength training, plyometrics, especially for women, for just keeping our bones strong.
Yep.
And then we do sprint intervals and high intensity interval training.
Amazing.
Honestly, for most people, I would say that's what you should do. You get the most bang for your buck there.
Yeah.
Like you're going to get fitter. You're going to also increase your endurance. You're teaching your body to recover in between.
Prevent neurodegenerative disease, the BDNF that's released.
Exactly.
It's the laundry list.
There are so many benefits. But I do think it's really interesting how especially women are drawn to this slow and steady.
I know.
It is like maybe because we're good at it. We can go for hours.
We can, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do love like running for a really long time. Like it does feel awesome to me.
Which is why
I always have to earn it. Like I earn it with my high intensity and my strength training. I'm like, all right, I earn my zone 2.
That's why I'm like, do it. If it makes you feel good, do it. Because I understand it.
Yeah,
I'm like, you also need to be happy.
Yes.
You also need to get
good about your training.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But I do think it's really cool to teach, especially women, to go hard.
Yeah.
Because I think we don't do it that often.
I know.
And like, you feel different. Going really hard for 15 seconds can hurt so much. And it's 15 seconds. You're like, what, am I resting for 2 minutes now?
Yeah.
But you get so much out of it.
Yeah,
like it's really fun to see women pushing harder and harder and being like, oh my God, my wattage went up to 300, 350. And it's like, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. It gives that like, you feel
confidence,
powerful.
You know, and it translates into every other aspect of your life.
Into everything
Just how you move in the world fundamentally changes when you're strong.
Exactly. Exactly. And we're not supposed to be doing
as the fittest woman on earth.
I just think it's so interesting because I helped my mom. That's how the birth of this was. I was helping my mom and I had to do all the wrong things. Yeah. She was doing long with me threshold training because I was pregnant. Yeah. I'm like, burn calories because I was going to help her lose weight. And then we were doing high reps with weights because I didn't want it to be loading up necessarily too heavily. My dad got a 6-pack. He got a 6-pack in 3 months.
And she made no gains.
No difference. And I was devastated. Yeah. I was in charge of it, her nutrition and training. I was devastated. Yeah. And that's where I was like, it's menopause. I just went all in.
Heavy.
Making the changes was life-changing for her. It was incredible. And that's where I was like, I didn't think I could get as passionate about anything other than competing. Yeah. That's such a big part of my life. And I love that I found something like this. I love that I found something that I'm so passionate about and so irritated and frustrated at the same time that the information isn't out there and as accessible and misleading. And I'm just like, we deserve better. Women deserve better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild that it's taken that long to realize that, women are actually different than men.
Insane.
Right?
I'm a professional athlete. Like, this is what I get paid to do. And I did not know about so many of the differences and so many of the different things that we can try to take advantage of, to be honest.
I know, honestly, yeah.
So it was, and I didn't realize until afterwards that even like Katrin, Thorisdottir, one of my best friends, we're like at the games, and then on Sundays it's like, I finally started my period. I'm like, oh, dang. So you've been competing, so she was trying to postpone her period. Yeah. Because she didn't want to have her period while she was competing. I'm like, you definitely should have just rather had your period because she doesn't have bad period pains. Yeah. You rather should have just had it, let it happen and have it during, because you're going to feel so much better and recover. And she was like, she was just underperforming and didn't feel sharp, And then I'm like, wow. And that was, I want to say like 2018 or something. I'm like, wow, you did not know that.
Yeah.
So it made me realize, even in the sport of like professional athletes, if we don't know it, how do women know what they can do to just feel better? Like,
Yeah.
it's not about not training. It's about just fueling a little bit differently and
Yeah.
doing things that make you just feel a little bit better, having
Yeah.
a little bit more aminos and
Yeah.
like get your groove and feel more confident, or like it all affects it.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
It really is. And I think like we're finally at a place where obviously people are talking about it and there's more awareness. Thanks to
Yes.
people like yourself and Dr. Stacey Sims for elevating the conversation and doing the research on female physiology so we can understand these questions. Like, what else about your training and kind of recovery protocols that you've changed based on some of this new information that's come out?
Ooh, I would say it's mostly the fueling
Yeah.
that I have stayed on top of. I'm obviously still in a place where I do a lot of threshold training, and I maybe limit to like I don't spend as much time doing zone 2 work.
Mhm.
And I've always kind of felt like I didn't need as much as the
Yeah.
boys, for example.
Yeah.
They just felt like it helped their conditioning a lot,
Yeah.
but I feel like a little bit higher actually helps me a lot more.
That's
Um,
consistent with the research,
yeah, I
especially as
thought that
women
was
age.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those are like the biggest factors that I've had from then. But then when it comes to menopause, I feel like it's way more interesting things.
Yeah.
And also, honestly, just like I just want the topic to become more openly talked about.
Mhm.
I've never been ashamed talking to my coach about when I have my period.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's very heavy this week,
Yeah.
or I didn't have a period. I lost a couple of cycles, and then I tell him, and I'm like, I actually don't feel like great right
Yeah.
now. I feel really lean, but I don't feel like I have a lot of energy. So we've always tried to stay on top of those things. So it's hearing from other athletes and hearing even the girls a couple of times on the bus where they're talking about they haven't had their periods for a year or half a year, and they just think it's great because
Oh gosh.
they feel that they don't have to think about it,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's totally nice not having your period,
Yeah.
but it's probably your body telling you that you need something. You want to get the most out of your body. Like, if we're trying to get stronger and fitter,
Mm.
the body is asking for something. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
have enough energy to actually.
It doesn't feel safe. That's what
Yeah,
happens. Your body shuts
exactly.
down.
So, like, having that just more openly talked about. And also, just like when young girls are having their periods for the first time, there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
And what changes are happening in the body so that they can stay in their sports and they can continue, like, that it isn't this taboo thing.
Yeah.
We all have it.
Mhm.
And the same with menopause. I think I haven't gone through menopause yet,
Right.
and I'm not in perimenopause yet either. I'm still having kiddos, but I will.
Mhm.
I will. I
Yeah.
hope.
Yes, you
We
will.
can all hope that we will go through it, because it's a part of aging.
Mhm.
And I don't want to die before I have menopause. Like, and I want to make sure that when I get there, I'm going to be as prepared as possible.
Mhm.
And I want to stay having energy and
Mhm.
managing the symptoms and being able to continue to play with my husband and my kids as long as I can. So
Yeah.
just like getting to know the new body. And I know that it seems weird. That's something I'm passionate about, but my mom is one of my very best friends, and she struggled,
Yeah.
and therefore I went all in.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate. I actually think my partner knows more about menopause than most women do. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in good hands.
I know. No, that's amazing. It's and I think it kind of goes back to one of your original comments around just performance and health,
Yes.
and it's an intersection that I'm really interested in. Like, how do women, as you get into your 30s and are still competing and trying to perform, also think about, all right, how do I maintain a healthy menstrual cycle? How do I, because we know that, the longer you can kind of maintain a healthy cycle, I think generally potentially the less problematic a lot of the symptoms related to perimenopause might be. Yet
Yeah.
there seems to be a relationship which we don't know, there's not all, great data around
We'll
it.
get more and more data.
We will.
I love that more and more are putting money into it. But
Yes.
that's why I think the conversation needs to continue to go. That's
Yes.
why I think women need to continue to I want this.
Yes.
And we need to stay on top of also all the misinformation that is out there, the social media that is incredible in so many ways and horrible in so many ways.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
But-
a lot of fear mongering.
Yes.
I think, and I think taking advantage of women in a lot
Yes.
of ways, who are trying to get on top of it, but, are just desperate for facts, and I think people prey on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They prey on needing the assistance and the guidance. But I think you're right. We just need it from early age through all the lifespans. The human body is absolutely incredible.
It is.
Man, you're pretty cool too.
Yeah.
But what we can do is insane.
No.
And it's so interesting and fascinating. And there are so many things that we can do to make ourselves feel better and empowered.
Yeah.
So having all the way from just when you first start having your period, empowerment throughout, how to continue to train. And honestly, women are doing crazy things. I don't know, I'm 35 now, turning 36. And I'm I don't know, I might come back and compete. We can continue. We can do this for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Our bodies are absolutely incredible if we learn to listen to them. So that's where I think is so important. Yeah, we have a training program, Empowered by Daughter, but what I think is the most important is the understanding and knowing. If we don't have the knowledge and the information, then it's very hard to stick with it. It's very hard to continue to go. And I think one of the
Your body will quit on you.
Exactly. I think one of the biggest myths in the fitness industry is motivation. Because you can't rely on it.
Yeah, totally.
We're not going to be motivated all the time. I lack motivation very often. But what I have is discipline. And what I have is a goal. And what I have is the knowledge of what I want in the future for myself and right now. And I feel so good and proud of myself when I finish what I'm doing, when I finish my sessions. And I know I'm going to become the best version of myself, for my family, for my kids. And motivation will come alongside it. But throughout my whole career, I've been so focused on motivation until I had this realization, a breakthrough, is that I don't need to be motivated. You don't need the motivation. That will come, but that will come from you just showing up and knowing why you're showing up. And I don't think you can last in anything if you don't know why you're doing it. If you don't know the benefits. Every time a coach wanted to change something and have me try something new, I would be reluctant until we went through what the benefits could be like. I'm always open to change, but I won't stick with a change unless I know why I'm making the change. So I feel like the why, the knowledge is one of the key things for changing and staying in it, because it's the rest of our lives, right?
It's a beautiful message.
I want to be, my dream is having a home with any assistance I need, having cleaning and all of that for me. And then maybe my kids. No.
Yeah.
And then Katrin living next door, my parents maybe across the street. And then we have this gym that we just all go to and we train together when the kids are at work and the grandkids are at school and grandkids and play. I want to continue to just that's the most fun part of the day. We're meeting up, we're doing this, and then we go play games or whatever.
That's an amazing
That's
dream.
the dream.
Annie, last question. What does being human mean to you?
Wow. What does being human mean to me? I don't know. There's so many words. I want to keep it long. Being human means making mistakes, learning, evolving, growing, being kind. That's what being human means to me. We're never going to stop. I don't think I'll ever stop learning.
Yeah. I love that. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was great. Lately, I've been spending more time thinking about how I communicate science and how I can take something as complex as, say, heart rate variability and translate it in a way that really lands with people. When I was preparing for one of my recent talks, I found myself wanting to make the data I was presenting more intuitive and more visual, more human. And because my show sponsor Fiverr has such a great network of first-class freelancers, I decided I'd lean on one of them to really optimize my presentation. Don't get me wrong, I still spend hours collating and interpreting all the research, but working with Fiverr Designer meant I could take my information and turn it into something that's much more impactful for my audience. If you're an educator, a founder, or someone who wants to level up the way you communicate your ideas, Fiverr can make this incredibly easy just by connecting you with talented freelancers in a matter of hours. Fiverr has 700 service categories to help you with anything that you need, from AI specialists to marketing, product, tax consultants, and many more. Head to fiverr.com or click the link in the description and use code Kristen for 10% off your first hire. That's Fiverr.com.